Sukkot is, so to speak, a twofold yontif. On the one hand, Sukkot is part of the Sholosh Regalim. Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. On the other hand, Sukkot is the culmination of Tishrei, of the Yemei Adin. There's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and finally Sukkot. How does this twofold aspect of Sukkot work together? So first, let's understand what we just said. Sukkot is the culmination of Yemei Adin, of the days of judgment. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we understand, the Aseret Yemei Tshuva. Whoever wasn't judged, didn't get a judgment on Rosh Hashanah, it's totally va'omed, it's waiting until Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the Keit Slicho Mechila. But Sukkot? The answer is very simple. We all know Hoshana Rabbah is the last day of judgment. It's the day when the Pitkaot, it's the day when the decrees are given to the Malachim. Comes Hoshana Rabbah in many places is a minhag that the Chazan davens with a kittel, like on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. We say tfilos for tshuva. So, Rosh Hashanah, Aseret Yemei Tshuva, Yom Kippur, all the way through until Hoshana Rabbah. So Sukkot is the culmination of the Yemei Adin. At the same time, it's the end of the Sholosh Regalim. We see this in a halachic way. A person makes a neder to bring a carbon, so they have the opportunity to bring it till the end of the year. When is that? It's the end of Sukkot. The Regalim go first Pesach, which is B'chodesh Harishon, then Shavuos, which is 50 days later, and then Sukkot, which is B'chodesh Hashvi on the 7th month. Comes Sukkot, we finish the Shalosh Regalim. The rest of the winter there are no Regalim, and once again we begin B'chodesh Harishon. So therefore Sukkot in that sense is the end of the Shalosh Regalim. In a conceptual way we can see it also. Pesach is the beginning of the Shalosh Regalim. It's Yitzias Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf. Klal Yisrael begins their journey as a nation. Shavuos is Matan Torah. It's when, as Moshe Rabbeinu said to Paro, Shalach es ami v'ya'avduni. We want to leave Mitzrayim, but the purpose is Shavuos. The purpose is to receive the Torah. But even the receiving of the Torah is a station along the way. The goal is to dwell in Hashem's house. As the Vilna writes in the beginning of Shir Hashirim, that after the Chet Egel, the Anani HaKavod left us. And they only came back at the beginning of Sukkot when we began to build the Mishkan. As the Ramban writes, and the beginning of Shmos, the Ramban writes that Sefer Shmos is about Klal Yisrael returning l'malas avosam, back to the level of our forefathers. To go back, Shechina Shora, the Shechina dwells within our homes. When does that happen? When we build a Mishkan. So therefore, Sukkot is when we begin building the Mishkan after the Chet Egel. So therefore, Sukkot is the culmination of Matan Torah, when the Shechina begins to dwell in Klal Yisrael in a permanent way. So Sukkot is the end of the Shalosh Regalim. It's the culmination of the process of Yitzias Mitzrayim, and it's also the end of Yemei Adin. These two paths of Avodah, the end of Yemei Adin, the final Slicha and Mechila of Klal Yisrael, and at the same time the culmination of Yitzias Mitzrayim, come together in Sukkot. And we see this juxtaposition, this joining together of these two different types of Avodah in various ways. Let's examine what Sukkot is. There's a pasuk in Sefer Nehemiah where it says the following: V'yasu kol hakol hashavim min hashvi Sukkos. Klal Yisrael returned from the destruction, from the exile of the first Beis Hamikdash. In the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, we returned to Eretz Yisrael, and says the pasuk, the entire kol, the entire community returned, came back from the Shvi, from the captive, from the exile. Vayeshu Sukkos, they dwelt in Sukkos. Ki lo asu miyemei Yeshua ben Nun came b'nei Yisrael ad hayomahu. We never made a Sukkos like that ever before. Ad hayomahu v'ti simcha gedola ma'od. There was a tremendous simcha. Now the Gemara says, what do you mean they never made such a simcha? Well, David never made Sukkos. Chizkiyahu never made Sukkos. What does it mean that this Sukkos was the greatest Sukkos, the best, the first Sukkos they ever made since Yitzias Mitzrayim? So, Rav Hutner wants to answer based on the Gemara in the following way. What happened on that Sukkot? So there's a well-known Gemara that says that when the nation returned after the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash and after the Golus, they stood before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we want to ask you a favor. We want to ask you to do the following. Please remove from us the Yetzer Hara from Avodah Zarah. And they davened, and Hashem removed the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah from them. Says Rav Hutner, that is a unique event in Klal Yisrael's history. But it's not meant to be unique. Really, that is what the goal of the world is. The goal of the world is to eradicate, to erase, to destroy Avodah Zarah. That was supposed to happen at Matan Torah. Matan Torah was chorus, cherus. We were free of the Yetzer Hara, of the Satan, the Malach HaMoves. Moshe Rabbeinu was supposed to bring down the Torah. The Shekhinah was supposed to rest in Klal Yisrael, which, as we said, is what Sukkot is. And the world was meant to be complete. But because Klal Yisrael did the Chet HaEgel, that didn't happen. The first time, the only time so far in the world's history, where some aspect, some part of Yetzer Hara was completely, totally destroyed and removed from the world, was at that Sukkot. That is the greatest, most complete Sukkot that was ever done in the world's history. And we're waiting to have a complete Sukkot when totally the Yetzer Hara will be shechted, which is what we talk about in the time of La'asid Lavo. When Mashiach comes, we will completely shecht and remove the Yetzer Hara. So therefore, that Sukkot was a Sukkot which is me'ain. It's a little microcosm of what's going to be La'asid Lavo. There we see these two different aspects of Sukkot. On the one hand, it's a complete mechila, to get rid of the Yetzer Hara completely. There's no greater culmination of Yemei Adin than that. And it's also the Sukkot of the completion of the Shalosh Regalim, to leave the tumah, the filth, the impurity of Mitzrayim, to receive the Torah, but then receive it in a way that it chases away the Yetzer Hara completely. That Sukkot of Klal Yisrael, when they returned from the Golus of Bayis Rishon, was what Sukkot was really meant to be. As a result, what happened on Sukkot? We have a Simchas Beis HaShoeva. What happened at the Simchas Beis HaShoeva? At the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, there was dancing. But who danced? Says the Gemara that Tzaddikim, the Baalei Tshuva, were dancing and praising Hashem. Why? Because they said we're completely connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That dance is once again a microcosm of an ultimate dance. The Gemara says in Tainus, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Asir HaKadosh Baruch Hu lasos mochol tzaddikim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to make a dance with the tzaddikim. V'yoshe b'neim Gan Eden, and he sits between them in Gan Eden. V'chol echad, and every single one, Maro and Be'etzbo, points at HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, Hinei Elokeinu zeh, this is our Hashem. That's what's going to be La'asid Lavo. Sukkot, which is a time of dancing before Hashem by the tzaddikim and the Baalei Tshuva, those who connected to Hashem, take the power of Sukkot, the power of those who left Mitzrayim on Pesach, receive the Torah on Shavuos, and enter into the Sukkah on Sukkot, and those who do Tshuva through the Aseres Yemei Tshuva and enter into the Sukkot as the way of Baalei Tshuva. Sukkot is that idea of, again, a microcosm of what's going to be La'asid Lavo. Furthermore, that Simcha is called the Simchas Beis HaShoeva. One level of understanding is they drew water. Ushavtem mayim b'sosel mimaynei Yeshua. They would draw the water from the Mei HaShiloach, and they would bring the water to the Beis HaMikdash, and they would do the Nisuch HaMayim. However, Taisus brings a Yerushalmi that says it's a place Shesham Shavim Ruach HaKodesh. You're able to draw forth Ruach HaKodesh. You're able to draw forth Nevuah. And it says over there that who received Nevuah in such a way? Yonah. Yonah received Nevuah because he was from the Olei Oregel, from those who went to the Beis HaMikdash on Sukkot. Every Sukkot is a time where there's an opportunity to connect to Ruach HaKodesh. The Navi says that La'asid Lavo, the time of Mashiach, V'nibu b'neichem u'v'nosechem, all of Klal Yisrael will become Nevi'im. Sukkot is a time when a person can connect to the ability of Nevuah like La'asid Lavo. So therefore, Sukkot, as we sit in the Sukkah and we contemplate the beginning of the process, which is from Pesach to Shavuos to Sukkot, and then we think about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the Aseres Yemei Tshuva, we join these two ideas together and sit in the Sukkah when we have even our Simchas Beis HaShoeva, we connect to this idea of Simcha of Lasid Lavo. However, the Sukkah itself teaches us this idea. How do we see this in the Sukkah? So, we see it in the following way. There's a Gemara that says that ultimately we're going to sit in the Sukkah of the Levyasan. Many people have a Rachamon that we're going to be Zocha to sit in the Sukkah of Levyasan. There's a Hirotzon at the end of Sukkot. We daven that we should be Zocha to sit ultimately next year in the Sukkah of the Levyasan. However, there's a problem. What do you mean the Sukkah of the Levyasan? The walls of the Sukkah you can make from anything. The Gemara says, the Mishnah says, you can make the walls of a Sukkah from cows. If you take cows and tie them up and put schach on top of them, if the Society for Protection of Animals doesn't get upset at you, that's a kosher Sukkah. So what does it mean that Sukkah is going to be from the Levyasan? The schach is going to be kosher, it comes from Levyasan? We're going to change the halacha? So the answer seems to be in the following way. The world we live in now, there's a separation. There's work, effort, toil, and then there's reward. In the time of Brias HaOlam, when Hashem created the world, that wasn't true. The way we see this is the following. The way Hashem originally wanted to create the world, it was supposed to be tam ha'etz k'tam ha'pri. You have a tree, right? A tree seems to only exist in order to bring out fruit. The tree is bark, it's wood, it doesn't taste like anything. The effort to bring out the fruit goes through this entire giant, huge tree, but it comes out in that little fruit. The way the world was originally meant to be created was the effort itself had the taste of the fruit. What does that mean? We do a mitzvah, so we want to get schar. The mitzvah seems to us to be difficult, we have to overcome a Yetzer Hara, but we know in the end there's going to be schar. Says Nefesh Chaim, that's not the way it really should be. When we say schar mitzvah, we don't mean that if I do a mitzvah, I'll get a chance to do another mitzvah. Schar mitzvah means the schar of doing the mitzvah itself is a mitzvah. Meaning, as I'm doing the mitzvah, that itself is the schar. It's sort of like a person who's a musician and loves music. So they come to play music at a wedding, they come to a concert, they come to a recital. They're going to get paid. But the actual performance of the music itself is also enjoyable for them. So the act which they're going to get paid for is itself also its own reward in and of itself. Says the Nefesh HaChaim, schar mitzvah. The doing of the mitzvah itself is its own schar. Of course there's schar, but there's schar just being in the realm of doing a mitzvah. The sukkah is like that. The sukkah, we dwell within the sukkah. We dwell itself within the schar. Livyasan is a representation of the ultimate schar. You get to eat from the Livyasan because of all the mitzvahs you did. But the sukkah is itself saying, I'm sitting in the sukkah, I'm enjoying sitting in the sukkah, I'm surrounded by doing a mitzvah, and that itself is its own schar. Sukkot is a time where there's a little bit of a taste of what it's going to be like la'asid lavo. Sukkot is a little bit of the actual performance of the mitzvahs itself, it's schar. And the one fruit, which Chazal tell us, is tam ha'etz k'tam ha'pri, is the esrog. On Sukkot itself, we take a fruit, which the tam ha'etz k'tam ha'pri. Sukkot is the time where the reward and the effort, the toil to perform the mitzvah and its reward come together. The Sukkah of Levyasan means that the Sukkah itself is itself its own reward. That's the closest connection to the world to come that we're going to have. So Sukkot is completely a time of Olam Haba. It's a time when we sit before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, having reached the culmination of going through Pesach, Shavuos, and ultimately Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, and it's also sitting in the mitzvah itself, enveloped in the mitzvah, which is its own schar in and of itself. And that's the feeling of la'asid lavo of Sukkot, which gives us the ability to do that which in the time of Ezra they did, to overcome and eradicate and totally wipe out that idea of the Yetzer Hara.